Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host is Chris. What's going on, buddy?
Hello, Zach. Great to be here again. So it's been such a long time since we were back.
Like 10 minutes ago.
Been yeah, been a
Yeah,
little bit yeah, yeah. We're back talking about Ahsoka
we
Part
are.
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Episode number 2, part 2, whatever the heck you want to
Mhm.
call it. But yeah, welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. If this is your first time joining us. Welcome. Thank you. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram and follow us there for all the latest content and updates, as well as episode announcements, celebrity guest announcements, so forth. We're just a couple of nerdy dudes who like all things Star Wars, Star Trek, and everything in between, science fiction. We talk about a little bit of pop culture, and we're off in a galaxy far, far away.
Long time ago. Yep.
A long time ago. That's right. Yeah. I want to know, how long ago was this? They keep saying a long time ago. Eventually, it wouldn't eventually at some point in the timeline a long time ago just become some time ago? You know what I mean? Like eventually, it can't be long time ago for everything, can it? Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's my stupid brain thinking that way. But yeah. So if you are watching us on YouTube, obviously be sure to hit the subscribe and the bell for notifications. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, you can find our video version of this on YouTube. And not all of our episodes are on YouTube. As a matter of fact, all of our episodes are on a podcast, your favorite podcast platform, because we didn't originally start recording with video. So we have a lot now. We're getting closer to 50 videos, somewhere in the 40s, I think. So we're almost getting there. We have a lot of videos on here, so be sure to go check those out. Lots of reviews: Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Obi-Wan. Actually, I don't know if Obi-Wan and I don't know if any of our Star Wars reviews were video. Were they? I don't know. I don't
Maybe
remember.
not. Maybe
I
not.
don't remember. Anyways, you can find them. Go search for us. If you just type in the Random Redshirt podcast in Google, you'll find a whole bunch of stuff. With that being said, let's jump in, Chris, to episode number 2 or part 2 of Ahsoka, entitled "Toil and Trouble."
Toil and Trouble. I'm still thinking about why it was titled that way. Actually, I'm not certain, but we'll see.
Guess we'll
Maybe you
find
have
out.
some insight. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. No,
Yeah.
I don't.
So it is quickly revealed to us, like as we suspected, Sabine is not dead. It was just a flesh wound, and
That's right.
she is being healed by medical droids in a medical facility. So,
Yeah,
she
we're
is,
still on Lothal too on this case. In this case, yeah.
that's right, Lothal, and she wakes up in the medical facility in the hospital, and then Ahsoka and Huyang and I don't know if Hera is there in person or Hera is just there as a hologram, but
Hologram, yeah.
at least Ahsoka and Huyang are there. So uh, you know, throughout Hera is kind of interesting, right? Because Hera is kind of the one pushing Ahsoka to saying, "Hey, why don't you get Sabine involved? She might help you out with the map. Hey, why don't you ask Sabine to be your Padawan again? Because that'll be like good. You guys need structure." So I guess Hera feels comfortable enough to ask all this stuff from Ahsoka. So that's kind of, yeah. She's the maybe catalyst or kind of person kind of nudging them along. Both that way. So it's kind of a neat aspect for Hera's character.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you have not watched our episode 1 review, please go back and watch that. We talk kind of just some overall thoughts of where we're at and where kind of Ahsoka we think takes place, maybe about 9-ish years after Return of the Jedi, as the New Republic is being built up, and the Empire, folks from the Empire, they're still loyal to the Empire, are still scattered around, and they're finding this out, especially in this episode. But Ahsoka has made comments about her. I don't know if she used the word reckless, but just kind of, she's not your maybe your prototypical Padawan. Maybe she doesn't listen that easily. But then again, Anakin was a little reckless himself, if we remember from the prequels, right? I mean, when he went back to Tatooine and found out his mother had been taken by the Tusken Raiders, he went on a vengeance and killed him. You remember, he gets all upset and he says, "I killed them all, men, women, children. I killed I slaughtered them like the animals they are," and everything. I mean, Anakin was controlled by emotion, right? He was very emotional and very reckless in many regards. Didn't necessarily always listen to his master. and Obi-Wan. Remember, even Obi-Wan makes that like kind of hokey, corny, but yet true line, like, I swear, Anakin, you're gonna be the death of me, or something like
Yeah,
that. And he is when he was Darth Vader,
yeah,
right? It's a homage to A New Hope. But yeah, so I think, Ahsoka's very, you mentioned this in our last review, Chris, how reserved she came across. Well, it's very evident she's reserved by with the idea of bringing Sabine back in and teaching her the ways of the Force again.
yeah, yeah. Reserved is a great word for it. And in this episode too, I felt she was also just reserved throughout the whole episode, like throughout all of the scenes, even when they're going through the factory.
Yeah,
She's just got this
very
reserved,
stoic.
yeah, very stoic expression and reserved responses on everything. So like
Yep.
nothing surprises her. And
Yep.
actually, why would anything surprise her?
Well, at this point, when we talked about this before, right? She's been through so much and seen so much, right? She survived Order 66. Like there are other few Jedi. In fact, one of the Jedi that survives Order 66 we meet in the first episode, and that was Baylan Skoll, right?
Yeah.
So she's been through a lot. She had to learn, and she saw her master lead the Empire, right? As Vader.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the kind of feeling she would have had from that.
Yeah.
So
That's terrible. Yeah.
yeah,
But I mean that connects to the idea because Hera's saying, "Hey, when it when is someone ready to be a Padawan? When is someone ready to be an apprentice?" And
right.
Ahsoka says, "Well, you know, you just feel it essentially, and they feel it too."
Yeah.
So she doesn't point to anything specific, but um, responds in that kind of way. Hera, I don't think Hera kind of buys it, but Ahsoka's just like, well, you feel it, and they know it as well. We do have, yeah, Baylan and Shin and Morgan kind of gathering on a different planet now, or Arcana, and by now they've stolen the map. Right?
Well, yeah, and this
Yeah.
this is where Ahsoka originally found the map, right? They show up and it's in ruins because those droids, those killer droids, self detonated and leveled the area.
Oh, I didn't make that connection. I didn't
Yeah,
realize it was the
same
same planet.
planet. Yep,
Oh,
same exact
okay.
planet.
Okay. Totally. This planet's just like, what is up with this planet? It's got this sphere map, and then it's got this other, I don't know what it was called, but this kind of gathering place where you could put the sphere. I think Balin calls at some point, he calls something a reflex point. I still don't know what that means, but we'll see. But they've got it there. They've kind of put that sphere there, and then kind of reveals that Thrawn is in a completely different location. So this is the map to get to where Thrawn is.
He's in a whole
And
other galaxy,
whole other galaxy.
which
Yeah.
even with hyperdrive, not warp drive, hyperdrive, going into hyperspace, they're not going to be able to travel from one galaxy to another in their lifetime. They can't do it. It's too great a space.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting how they get there.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, so there's a interesting thing here. In Star Wars Rebels, they introduce this idea of some sort of like, I don't remember exactly what it's called. And I know Star Wars fans are can get very uppity if you're not correct on every little term. Star Trek fans can do the same thing too. I've seen that
yeah.
firsthand. But it's almost like this kind of like a different dimension thing where they can go from one place to another in different areas of space time, and they can travel there instantly and so forth. And that was brought up. That was in Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, Rebels, I believe. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's how they would get there
Okay.
to Thrawn. Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe it's quantum entanglement. We'll see. Yeah.
Chris, we have
Yeah.
enough quantum multiverse, all this stuff from so many shows. I mean, do you kind of feel like the multiverse is maybe a bit overdone?
Yeah.
And being used to explain things that don't, equal out in shows these days. I just kind of feel like, DC's done it, Marvel's done it, Star Trek's kind of doing it. I mean, it just kind of feels overdone at this point. Like it's just a way to use from a writing purposes, like, oh, we'll just fix it by saying it's part of a multiverse. Like, okay, I mean, that's kind of been there, done that. Got the T-shirt at this point.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But going to a galaxy will be interesting in the universe of Star Wars. I think in the expanded Star Wars universe, there was a conflict. And I'm not sure. I think I'd seen this on YouTube or Reddit, but in the expanded Star Wars universe and the books, which are no longer canon, there was a conflict.
Oh no, they're canon.
They're canon.
They're just not Disney canon, but they're canon. Let's be clear, right?
Yeah, there are canon.
We know they're canon, Chris. We know they are. They're too good not to be.
That's right. All right. That's right. There was an alien race that they had to fight that came from another galaxy, I guess.
It wasn't like was it the Yuxin Vaughn or something like that?
Yeah.
So now, for those of you who have watched and listened to our podcast, you guys know, and we've talked about this, right? My favorite science fiction franchise of all time, Star Trek, followed closely by Star Wars. Chris is the opposite, right? This is your thing, right? This is your jam, Chris. Star Wars is your favorite. Star Trek follow right behind that. I had many friends who were into science fiction and stuff, and most of them were diehard Star Wars fans. They we like Star Trek, yes, yeah, but it was mostly Star Wars. So growing up, so much of this was Star Wars, not as much Star Trek when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So the whole like Yuxin Vaughn, or however, I don't know how you pronounce the name, however you pronounce it, popped into my head because I have all these cobwebs in the back of my mind from all this Star Wars stuff growing up as a kid. And I love Star Wars growing up. I still love Star Wars. But it just kind of popped out there, not because I'm some, like encyclopedia of Star Wars or anything. I want to make sure I explain that because people think, oh my gosh, this guy, no. Here's the curtain. See behind the curtain?
Yeah.
There's just a dude back there.
but see, you had this very relevant piece of knowledge that was in your mind, right? That you're able to use it.
If I'm correct, I have to go back and look to make sure that's what you're referencing, but I think that's what it is. However you pronounce it.
It sounds about right though. It sounds good. Okay. So we've got them on our Arcana again, and we learn a little bit more about Morgan, right? They talk about her being part of some sort of witch clan or some sort of group in the past. So Star Wars is space fantasy. It is not.
Yeah, it's space opera.
Space opera and space fantasy, right? It's not science fiction, but within fantasy we get to have all of these different kinds of things happen.
Yeah.
So a little bit more about Morgan. I'm assuming we're going to learn more about Morgan after that, but
yeah, we didn't know much about her other than that she fights with Ahsoka in Mandalorian season 2. That's all we know, right? So there has been this clash between the two of them prior to the Ahsoka series.
Yeah. So we have Sabine taking apart, Sabine's helping out. So at first Ahsoka's like, nope, Sabine, you're not going to help. You're just going to recover. And then Ahsoka leaves, and we've got Huyang kind of having some nice interactive moments with Sabine, talking about Sabine's past as a Padawan, and Huyang kind of encouraging her. And I thought there were some comedic moments there because Sabine says something like, yeah, I was never good at the Force, and Huyang kind of confirms that. He's like, yeah, in all of my centuries, I can confirm that, yeah, you didn't have aptitude with the Force as all the other Padawans. So
he kind of slammed her by, like, she was like basically the worst of the bunch that he'd seen, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
But he does encourage her in his own way. And I think he gives her the lightsaber back in that scene.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yep.
That was good. And he says some good lines, like, you're the only time you're wasting is your own. So he was definitely an instrumental part in Sabine, kind of changing Sabine's paradigm in her mind. So it was good.
Yeah, that scene between Baylan, Shin, and Morgan, really important there, because Baylan mentions that, he kind of just heard these fairy tales that are told to kids about this idea of the universe and this multiverse thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But Morgan's like, oh, no, it's real. And she has this kind of feeling, this intuition of, where she can almost not prophetically, but she kind of sees this future where, yeah, I can totally see Grand Admiral Thrawn returning.
Yeah.
We have the map, we know where he's at. We just got to get there. And once we get there, we get him, we bring him back, and now boom, here comes the Empire again, which is what they obviously want, right? I mean, you think Grand Admiral Thrawn is probably the highest ranking, most important surviving member of the Empire at this point.
Yeah. Morgan says something to the effect of like, I can feel him calling to me. It was something like that.
Yeah, like she has this some sort of ability, right? Maybe not necessarily the Force, maybe it is, but this feeling that she knows he's still out there.
I mean, how? I'm just wondering, like, how? A couple things that come to mind. How powerful is Thrawn, right? Like, how much influence is he going to do if he comes back? I mean, the Emperor's gone. So much of the Imperial might is gone.
Or is the Emperor really gone, as we learn in Rise of Sky? Oh, but never mind. I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
I won't mention that one movie they made that was horrible.
So that's
somehow he survives the destruction of the second Death Star and falling down the chasm. Somehow he survives outer. Yeah, my goodness.
Yeah. So it's like bringing Thrawn back really gonna make, well, I guess in their minds, really gonna make like a whole bunch of difference. So that's something I
think it does,
processing.
Chris. Yeah, I think to them it does, right? I mean, here's a guy, you think about it, if he was the top military advisor, top strategist to the Emperor, I mean, it's like he's kind of like a Grand Admiral. I mean, my goodness, I don't know my Star Wars ranks maybe as well as I should, but Grand Admiral compared to Grand Moff, I mean, Grand Moff, I would think is like kind of like the top, like the 4-star general, the top 4-star general versus a Grand Admiral is more like the top 4-star admiral, maybe, or something. Mm-hmm. Like, I would think of a Moff as someone like ground troops versus an admiral more as like the fleet in space. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. I may be way off. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you can please politely correct us in the comments below or send us a message or whatever. Tell us we're way off. So I don't know how Moff and Grand Moff and Grand Admiral
relate. Yeah.
Relate, right? Because we know we get Grand Admiral. I mean, we get Grand Moff Tarkin. There's a lot of these high guys, but if Thrawn was this super smart genius strategist and advisor to the Emperor, you got to think that some of these followers must believe that he is kind of the answer they're looking for to resurrect the Empire and bring and get back at war, get back to war and squash this new republic that's being built. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume that from my perspective, I was in their shoes. That's and I was chasing after him. I would have to think I'd have some sort of reasoning why that was the case.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing that I question about, I'm still, I don't know. That relic, the sphere, it seemed the device that holds the map. It seemed like it had been in that temple that Ahsoka goes to in episode 1. Seems like it had been in that temple for like a long time. Like it was this ancient like sphere.
Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just put there several years. I mean, maybe the chamber is old, but maybe the map isn't. I don't know. I mean, I think in the episode they referred to it as the Eye of Sion.
Yeah.
Sion or something like that, however you say it.
So maybe it wasn't.
I mean, it looks like it. You're right. It looks like it's been there a long time. It looks old, but I mean, if it's got a map to Thrawn, I wouldn't think that.
Right.
I wouldn't think it's been there I mean, maybe a few decades, but not, thousands of years or anything.
Yeah. Because when it comes out, when it comes out and Ahsoka's getting it, like she's got to get all this like dust or crust away from it to kind of reveal the little orb in there.
Yeah. Well, so Star Wars Rebels takes place before the original trilogy, is my understanding of the timeline. So if that's the case, however many years from the end of Rebels to approximately, we're guesstimating about 9-10 years after Return of the Jedi, that period of time, I would think would be maybe what we're looking at as far as how long that's been there.
Okay.
So I think.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm shooting from the hip on this one, Chris.
It's all good. So Sabine is able to identify that those hunter killer droids, the assassin droids, are coming from Corellia. And so that sets in motion Hera and Ahsoka going to Corellia to kind of check this out and saying, hey, why are these hunter killer droids coming from this place? We got to go check out the factory and the shipyards because they're supposed to be under Republic control, supposedly.
Yeah. And Corellia, we know, was heavily featured in the Han Solo movie, Solo: A Star Wars Story,
Yeah.
right? We learned that Solo's from Corellia, right? I know
That's right.
Corellia is mentioned a lot in Star Wars. It's a planet that has a massive facilities building Imperial ships. I'm pretty sure Corellia is mentioned throughout the expanded universe books. It's in the video games. I mean, Corellia is a very key planet. It's in board games. It's a very key planet in Star Wars for the Empire and their ability to build all these ships and these massive things as they're able to.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up. So they do get on Corellia. They do interact, and I like this. They interact with one of the managers of the plant, and I thought that was pretty funny because the manager of the plant is pretty offish, saying, we got work to do. We had a job. What do you guys want to do this inspection? It's gonna take a lot of time.
Yeah, he seemed like a weasel from the very beginning. I'm like, I don't believe a word this guy's saying.
He played a very good weasel.
Yeah.
So that was good. And they take a tour this giant shipyard. They get into the control room and are wanting to see the various kind of projects they're working on. And I like the interaction where Hera's asking about, hey, what about this? And he's looking on his data pad. He's like, well, I'm sorry, you don't have security clearance.
Yeah, it's classified or whatever, right? Yeah.
She's like, I'm a general. I have clearance on everything. He's like, well, I guess you don't have clearance on this. So
yeah.
So that was great. They're asking him about the assassin droids, and he's like, no, why would we make assassin droids? We wouldn't make assassin droids here. And then the protocol droid says, oh, well, no, I think we do. I've seen one of those droids. And so that sets things in motions. And we learn yes, there are still employees there loyal to the Empire. And they say, hey, long live the Empire, and try to they try to attack Ahsoka and Hera, and so they've got to deal with that. And they kind of take out those old Imperial loyalists, and we see Ahsoka jump through the window there into an ensuing fight with Shin, and then we've got Hera flying after the ship, trying to track it down. So that was a good scene. I think a nice battle we saw with the Ahsoka, and I'm sorry, I don't think it was Shin actually. It was someone else.
Yeah, I guess it was another mercenary named Marok or Marok. Looked like one of the Inquisitors. Had that kind of spinning lightsaber. So
yeah, he was like Snake Eyes. We didn't see his face, right? He was like a Snake Eyes suit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Ahsoka's battling that guy, and we've got Hera flying after the ship and talking to her droid and able to get the tracker on the ship so they can figure out where it's going. Because apparently that was a star drive, and the New Republic doesn't have any ship in their fleet that would use such a big star drive for that.
Yeah. And so we see here Hera flying the ship, which is off the back of the Ghost. I think it's the name of the ship from Rebels. It's this little
Phantom
ship.
Was that it?
Huh?
Was it Phantom? Is that or Ghost?
Yeah, that might have been.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever the name of the ship was in Rebels that the crew is on, that little ship she's flying in this episode is from that.
Okay.
Which is interesting. But yeah, and we get Chopper, which is a lot of people's favorite character, one of people's favorite characters, the droid, which I didn't know this until I looked this up. Now I mentioned this in our first review we did of episode 1 of Ahsoka, that this great article I found on Collider that has a lot of these Easter eggs that I kind of used in my research. And so Chopper, of course, which is from Rebels, where we first meet him, this kind of funny, goofy looking droid who's very kind of you think R2D2 is a little bit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he has his moments. Well, Chopper is also a little bit of a sassy droid. Apparently, in Rebels, he was voiced by Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni voiced him again in this show.
Oh, for real? That's
Yeah.
cool.
Now, I mean, it's a bunch of gook noise, right? So you can't really make much out, but that's kind of cool that Dave Filoni voices him. I didn't know that. But you see his personality. He's very argumentative,
Mhm.
just like he is in Rebels, and is alongside Hera a lot, makes his opinions known, as this article on Collider says. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, that he flicks this tracker on board the ship right before it goes into
Hyperdrive, yeah.
hyperspace, and very interesting there. Um, it kind of a throwback to Rebels where you're seeing Hera flying the ship again and everything. But then we get Ahsoka reuniting with Sabine, and Sabine's cut her hair off.
Yeah.
Now, and you see that cool mural in the background with all those characters from Rebels. Now she begins to look like how she did in Rebels, how we know her in that show, which is very interesting because obviously she went from the Rebels animated series to live action. And so there were some subtle differences there. She had longer hair and stuff in the live action. Now she's cut it off and she looks more like how we know her from the show.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. And she says, I'm ready. Does Ahsoka
Yeah.
say anything?
I don't think so. No, I don't think
nods.
I don't think she does.
Very stoically.
Yeah. Yeah. Ahsoka acknowledges her, but I don't think really much other than that. And so it really sets it up to say, okay, we're getting a little bit of the band back together, right? We're getting Sabine back. We're getting Hera. We have Ahsoka coming in. Very interesting to see how this kind of moves in place moving forward. That fight scene with Ahsoka, I thought was really wonderful on Corellia, where she's battling that mercenary looking thing. It looks like an Inquisitor, although I don't think it is. And then she's battling another one of those HK-87, I think is what it is, droids. And then she's successful in fending him off, and then that mercenary jumps back on the ship, gets away from Ahsoka, and of course she's standing there all stoic after the fight's over. But that mercenary like chucks the lightsaber at her, and then she's like barely moves, like she's like, oh, that's all you got, kind of thing. And then right as he gets up on the ship, and then the lightsaber comes back to him like a boomerang or something. But very, very fun, good cinematic looking little fight scene there.
Yeah. I like that she's just barely moves, right? And just kind of demonstrates.
Yeah, that was nothing. That was nothing.
Yeah.
She was trained by Anakin. That wasn't. That's all you got. So, yeah, very interesting start to the show. We're getting a lot of tie-ins. I can definitely see what people say, like, if you aren't caught up on everything, things aren't going to make sense. You might be confused or lost or whatever. So I think it's really important that if you have not seen us, Rebels, Clone Wars, Mandalorian, the original Star Wars trilogy, the prequels, Book of Boba Fett, whatever. No, I mean, you may want to go out and read some stuff and watch some videos that help catches you up to figure out what the important things are. You can go watch, like I said, those Ahsoka specific episodes in on Disney Plus that will help give you some limelight into what's going on. So that can definitely help if you haven't seen it yet. But what are your overall thoughts, Chris, of these first two episodes? We kind of talked about that episode number 1, but just these first two episodes, how you feeling with this series so far?
Well, I do like Ahsoka's character. Even though she doesn't necessarily like say a whole lot, right? She's very stoic, and she's reserved. But I've always liked Ahsoka's fighting style, where she has the two lightsabers, because that's very distinct. And I think her lightsabers are white.
Yeah, they are. They're
white.
clear. Yeah, white. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like how they've made Ahsoka look. I like how they've made Ahsoka fight, and I like Rosario Dawson's. I think I'm saying her name correctly. How she's playing Ahsoka with, right now with not much emotion, which just completely makes sense because in the original Clone Wars movie, Ahsoka was just very, very, very energetic and spunky.
Yeah, she was that way in the Clone Wars animated series as well. And I think
Ah,
you're seeing a
okay.
maturity level here, right? You're seeing
Yeah.
somebody who's lived a long life so far. She's lived through a lot. I mean, think about how much she's gone through, as we mentioned before. And she has that presence of a Jedi master.
Hmm.
Don't you feel like a Qui-Gon or like a Jedi master Obi-Wan, right? Trying to train a young, spunky, energetic, emotionally driven Anakin. I mean, she has that kind of feel to me of a Jedi master. I don't know how if she has the same feel to you or not.
Yeah, in those themes, right? Yeah, I think Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan probably did a lot more teaching, like in their interactions. But we'll see how Ahsoka kind of evolves. I mean, Ahsoka being Anakin's apprentice would have had a tremendous effect on her.
Especially because
And
her
yeah,
master goes dark side, becomes Vader, and oh, by the way, in the Clone Wars, she fights Vader. So she's fighting her old master.
she's fighting her old master. So therefore, like any apprentice, any student that she has, right, that's always in the back of her mind. So you know, that's going to affect how she is as a mentor.
Doesn't that kind of make you feel like how Luke might have felt, right? I mean, again, we're not gonna go into the details of the newer Star Wars trilogy, but like, while we both definitely do not agree with the treatment of Luke, and a lot of people don't, where they made this whole crotchety Jedi who want to be left alone, right? But okay, so he has Ben Solo who goes off and becomes dark, becomes Kylo, and as a master, that would mess you up, right? Like you have this Padawan who has now gone bad. That's gonna change you, right? It's gonna alter you significantly to a certain extent. I kind of feel like with Ahsoka, it's different, but maybe similar. Like she saw her master go bad, so she may be thinking like, here's a guy who was teaching me. If he could go bad, what could happen to me, or what could happen to somebody I'm teaching? What if I went bad? And then I'm affecting them. So I think there's this long line of betrayal and this long line of Jedis who have been slaughtered or Jedis who have gone on to be bad people now. And she's really, really hesitant to get anybody else involved with stuff.
Yeah. You know who they're
I
missing?
think you see
Yeah.
that in her
Yeah.
her stoicism.
Yeah, you do. They need Yoda, right? Because Yoda would help them. Because
Yeah.
Yoda had that experience, right?
Even though Yoda's dead now, though,
Yeah,
but
Yoda's dead now. Yeah. Um, I mean, Yoda had that experience with Dooku, like turning to the dark side, but
yeah.
Yoda still, Yoda still was still teaching as far as we know after Dooku, but Yoda this would have this way of, I think, helping them in that
Yeah.
situation, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
They little Yoda mentorship.
yeah.
You want to give our audience a little Yoda impression?
Oh, maybe next one, maybe next time.
You got to prepare for it.
Yeah, but I would,
Pretty
yeah, have
good
to
though for those of you
prepare.
watching or listening. He's got a pretty darn good Yoda impression. That's
I would,
good.
yeah, I would. I don't think I'd be able to have the video on. Have the video
You turn your
off.
video off and do audio only.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Maybe sometime. But all right. Well, with that, that is episode number 2 of Ahsoka. We look forward to bringing you a review of each episode as they come out each week, and we hope you enjoyed our look at episode number 2. Be sure to go back and watch and/or listen to episode number 1 if you haven't done that already. And I'm sure we missed a ton of stuff. Chris and I are not fully caught up on Rebels and Clone Wars and things, so I'm sure there's stuff we're missing. But if you saw anything or heard anything that was just so far out of whack, please let us know in the comments below or shoot us a message. You can email us at our Gmail account, whichever you prefer. It's always good to know, like, hey, oh yeah, we missed that. Okay, cool. Good to know. Because
Yeah,
we don't know everything.
absolutely not.
And this show's got this. It's almost like Ahsoka is like the intersection for all these Star Wars stuff coming together.
Yeah, it is. So I mean, I'm feeling like tonight that I need to watch some Rebels or something.
Yeah, go start Star Wars
Here,
Rebels.
you
That could
know?
be a good way to jump into it because then you're going to start seeing a lot of the origins and the beginnings of a lot of these characters that, like Hera and Chopper and Sabine and all that stuff.
So much, man.
There
So
is. There's a
much.
lot. There's a lot, man. It's hard to keep up with all of it. I don't know how some of you keep up with all of it because I I can't. It's just too much.
Yeah, you guys that do keep up with it, good for you guys.
No joke.
Yeah.
Take some dedication, some serious dedication. But anyways, thank you always for watching, listening all over the globe and the interwebs. We really do appreciate it. Again, be sure to check us out on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all those platforms for the latest and greatest here. And we can't wait to talk to you again soon, right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.